Hey, I don't have it with me, but let me quickly check in with The Moonshine Wars by Elmer Leonard, written in 1969. Uh, it's written in 1969, is set in the South in 1931. Prohibition is still a thing, and this is a part of the South where it's moonshine. It's moonshine. Basically, we get to understand in the thing that because there's been horrible floods that have wiped away all this topsoil, that the people around here, the only way that they can still live, feed their families, is through making moonshine. And but prohibitions come through, which I think gets referred to very disparagingly as something that titless old women wanted, but not us. Want to tell us that what we can do with our corn, whether we can eat it or make it into drink. Strong thing of you know, this is a very male book, men book, and I'm going to get a lot of, I think, misogyny in this book and stuff like that. It and also it's we start right out on the first page with a southern character referring to a black man using the N word. I mean, they're supposed to be racist, but yeah, we get that on the very first page and a couple of more instances going through in the first bit. So that's a big welcome to Elmer Leonard's South. I mean, I guess you can kind of look at it as like Quentin Tarantino crime movies. Quentin Tarantino actually famously having been one of the great adapters of Elmer Leonard. Um, Same sort of sensibility. I mean, this is how these guys would have talked. So, do you want it cleaned up? Yeah, I think I should just it's there, and yeah, we'll see whether it earns it. I rightfully am very uncomfortable by it being there, and I can see why someone might get to read that first page and shut it and walk away. I have not so far. So the whole story is about son Martin, who at the beginning of this thing is being, it's kind of a usual ritual of the local law enforcement coming over and saying, "Hi, we're doing a raid. Let them know we're doing a raid." Sends a boy in there. They're going to raid your still and stuff like that. So he sets out a barrel of the stuff and supplies them with alcohol. And it's basically you're paying off the local law enforcement, who is not going to bust all the stills. It just happens to be son Martin's time. Son was away in the army. Apparently stayed there after the war was over. Had married a woman, Elizabeth. Elizabeth and his mother both died of influenza, probably Spanish influenza after World War One. He does finally come back. His father is buried in a grave up on a hill with electric light above it. And when questioned about that, it's like, well, he's a minor, so minors do not want to be condemned to being in darkness. So that's why he's got the light up there. A old army buddy comes by who has gotten a job as a federal cop, prohibition officer, who are essentially there to bust stills and stuff like that. And it turns out that Son made the mistake of telling him the story of his father having distilled like 150 barrels of whiskey, and instead of just selling it immediately, has stowed them away somewhere, and they're like 8 years old. So it's 8 years old whiskey. So it's like really valuable stuff. It's like they get a lot of money for it. And Frank wants that whiskey. He's like, it's again, it's not like he's not gonna bust this out and pour it onto the ground. He wouldn't make any money from it. He'd just get his crappy thing. No, he wants the whiskey. Um, Son has a lady, uh, a who what's her name? I can't remember her name right now. Her husband, she met her husband at a hotel where he was a salesman. They got married, and he killed himself. He asphyxiated himself on car fumes, and now she is with Son, and it's like she wants to get away, and he's like, this is where I am. This is my people kind of thing. I get the sense. Son is one of these guys, the taciturn, doesn't talk, just stares at people and thinks kind of guy. And he's actually kind of glad that Frank's shown up because he was going to smile and be sociable, but now he can just no, I don't have to do that. I can just tell people what's what. And he says, and when Frank comes up to him and says he wants my whiskey, I told him this story. You've all heard the story. It's true. He wants it. He's not getting it, and no one is. Um, and yeah, there's the whole question of where is it hidden because as the local cop, um, one who says the N word right at the beginning of the novel, um, Mr. Boyle, Mr. Boyle, Boyle, Boyle. I'll have to look up get these names right. Says like, yeah, boys, people have like searched all around those things, not to steal it because they know better than to try and steal from thing, but just it's kind of a game, and it's like nobody's found it. And Frank and Son have this kind of tete-to-tete about it, and it's like you're not going to get it. It's like, oh yes, I am, because I'm going to break the stills of all the other people around here, and I'm going to leave yours alone, and I'm going to tell them to find it for me, or to make you tell them where it is, and then they can tell me, and I'll leave them alone. But I'm going to destroy everybody else's still, make them starve, their families starve, and we'll see how you feel about it. It's like, who are you going to get to do that? And he says, I'll get the prohibition guys to do it. He's got an army behind him. He believes. He's on the phone. He also needs to get a middleman to do it, which is the thing I read today. He needs he needs a bootlegger to unload this 150 things of thing, and he can he'll split it with him, and he finds a guy who's a former dentist, a rapist, who was gassing women and raping them. Got 1 or 2, 3 years, and Frank's just like, yeah, why would you want to do it that way? I like it when they're squirming around, but still, that's his own business, which is just like, well, that's probably an accurate depiction of a complete fuckhead asshole. But it's another thing of we're getting all the dangers in here, and definitely Son's lady is definitely going to be in danger here. Is going to be damsel in distress, it feels like. Um, yeah, yeah. So it's a squalid book. It is well written. Elmer Leonard, it's not as just sort of strict dialogue heavy, maybe because it's a historical thing. There's got to be a little bit more descriptors going on. Leonard didn't do a lot of kind of historical fiction. And I mean, this is early in his career, so earlier in his career, so it may be he's going for kind of a different register here. But yeah, that's the book so far. Oh, and just the one thing is this grave with an electrical light on top of it makes me think, well, what might that be capping off? Might there be like a ton of whiskey underneath that grave as well? And maybe the electric light is there so you can aeration. I'm assuming you can't just seal it in, can't be sealed in or anything like that. And that maybe lights go on down there to keep things dry down there as well, like a shed that you would keep dry by having like one light in it. That's my thought there. So yeah, that's my guess on where the whiskey is, because I guess that's the thing, because nobody apparently knows where the whiskey is. It's like probably under Old Man Martin. Yeah. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.